Intelligence does not protect you from bankruptcy. In fact, sometimes it increases the risk. Some of the smartest people in the room end up making the worst financial decisions. And the reason has nothing to do with math. IT has everything to do with the brain. We're taught a simple equation: higher IQ equals better decisions equals more money. Logical, comforting, wrong. Financial success is not an intelligence test. It's a behavior test. You can understand compound interest perfectly and still panic sell during a crash. You can analyze balance sheets and still over-leverage your lifestyle. Knowledge doesn't. Override emotion, and intelligence often amplifies emotion in subtle ways. The more intelligent you are, the better you become at justifying bad decisions. Here's what neuroscience tells us. Highly intelligent people tend to have stronger pattern recognition ability. That's useful. But the brain also rewards being right. When you identify patterns correctly, dopamine spikes. Confidence increases. Now introduce money. Markets are uncertain. Outcomes are delayed. Feedback is inconsistent. So, when a smart person predicts something correctly once, the brain reinforces that identity. I understand this. That's where danger begins. Overconfidence bias activates. The prefrontal cortex builds complex narratives to support the belief. You don't just make decisions, you construct arguments. And those arguments feel rational. Your brain can outsmart reality, at least temporarily. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Smart people often fail financially because they trust their thinking too much. They believe, I've analyzed the risks. I understand the market. I've run the numbers. But financial ruin rarely comes from lack of intelligence. It comes from concentration. Too much leverage. Too much confidence. To little margin for error. The market doesn't care how smart you are. It only cares how exposed you are. Studies in behavioral finance show that overconfident investors trade more frequently and earn lower returns than less active investors. More intelligence often leads to more action. More action often leads to more mistakes. The paradox. Activity feels productive. Restraint builds wealth. Intelligence pushes you to act. Wealth often requires you to wait. Imagine a successful software engineer in Silicon Valley. High income, elite education, understands markets. They begin investing aggressively, then options trading, then margin. Each decision feels calculated. They read forums, study charts, build models, and for a while, it works. Confidence compounds faster than capital. Then volatility hits, leverage magnifies losses. Ego prevents quick exit. Instead of cutting exposure, they double down. Because being wrong feels worse than losing money. 5 months later, portfolio devastated, not because they were ignorant, because they were certain. Certainty is expensive. The intelligent brain is excellent at constructing narratives. When faced with uncertainty, it reduces anxiety by creating explanations. Temporary downturn, market overreaction, long-term thesis intact. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's denial. The more articulate you are, the easier it is to defend your own mistakes. Self-awareness does not automatically create self-control. That's the myth. You can understand bias and still fall victim to IT. Financial collapse often follows a predictable pattern. 1. Early success. 2. Identity attachment. 3. Increased risk tolerance. 4. Reduced humility. 5. External shock. 6. Refusal to adapt. Intelligence accelerates steps to through 4, because success confirms self-image. And once identity fuses with financial performance, cutting losses feels like losing self-worth. So the brain delays pain. and delayed pain compounds. If intelligence isn't protection, what is? Structure. Rules that override emotion. Rule 1. Cap position sizes. Rule 2. Never risk what you can't emotionally afford to lose. Rule 3. Predefine exit strategies before entry. Rule 4. Automate core investments into diversified index funds. Rule 5. Separate identity from performance. Build guardrails before you need them, because you won't build them when you're euphoric. Discipline is built during calm. IT protects you during chaos. Intelligence explains the world. Humility survives it. The market punishes certainty more than ignorance. You don't go bankrupt because you're dumb. You go bankrupt because you're exposed. If you've ever made a financial decision that, in hindsight, feels irrational, that doesn't make you unintelligent. It makes you human. The brain values consistency of identity over accuracy of outcome. Being wrong threatens ego, and ego is neurologically tied to survival. Understanding this isn't weakness, it's power. The most dangerous financial state is being right just enough to feel invincible. Wealth is less about brilliance and more about durability. Brilliance can generate gains. Durability preserves them. And preservation, not prediction, is what compounds over decades. The smartest investor in the room isn't the one who predicts the future. It's the one who survives it. But here's a deeper layer. If intelligence increases risk in investing, what happens when ego meets debt? Why do high-income professionals quietly drown in leverage? In the next video, we'll break down the psychology of high earners living paycheck to paycheck and why income alone doesn't create security. Once you see it, you'll rethink what financial success really means.